What if Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 7 were actually good? I mean really, really good. Welcome back to this 5-part series where in the first video we talked about the problems with Buffy's Season 7 and some ideas about how to fix them. Now we're going to start walking through every episode of a reimagined Season 7 and propose exactly how we could make it great. To do that, we'll start by changing the ending of Season 6 just slightly to set ourselves up in a stronger position. Let's go. The final 4 episodes of Season 6 begin the last arc of this season with Warren shooting Tara, which prompts Willow to turn dark, and with Spike attempting to sexually assault Buffy. Our first big rewrite of Season 6 is the easiest one. Spike's assault on Buffy just never happens. In our version, he can still feel just as rejected by Buffy dumping him, he can hang around long enough to sulk in his crypt and talk with Clem, but Buffy's rejection itself will motivate him to get out of town to get his soul back. The rest of Spike's part in Season 6 doesn't need to change. Our second, much bigger rewrite will save Tara's life. In episode 19, when Warren appears in the Summer's backyard with his gun, instead of firing wildly and hitting Tara through an upper story window, he is going to shoot Buffy and Xander. Number 1, this makes more sense because Buffy and Xander are standing right there. But number 2, it makes sense for what comes next, because if Willow thought that her two best friends, Buffy and Xander, had both been gunned down, wouldn't she want revenge? Wouldn't that be enough to send her over the edge? This change brings to the forefront the importance of Buffy, Willow, and Xander and their love for each other without any need to kill Tara. Tara and Willow, from the bedroom upstairs, hear the commotion outside and look out just in time to see Warren shoot Buffy in the chest and Xander in the left eye before he runs away. Willow, thinking they're both dead, flies off in pursuit, leaving Tara behind to care for the wounded. In episode 20, we would make it explicit that Buffy definitively flatlines or dies in the hospital, but is revived by the doctors, and through the magic of TV writing, despite being shot through the eye, Xander would be pronounced in a coma, but still technically alive. However, by the time that all becomes clear, Dark Willow is too far gone and consumed with dark power to let go of her quest for vengeance. If Tara doesn't die, then she can basically take over Xander's role in episode 20, going to the hospital, looking after Dawn, generally helping Buffy, and being a responsible adult while Willow goes dark. And this will show us through actions rather than just dialogue how these two women are fundamentally different. At the end of episode 20, Tara will be there in the woods with Buffy to witness Willow flay Warren alive, and in our version, that's the last straw that prompts her to willfully leave Sunnydale altogether without even saying goodbye to Willow. We know from Season 5 that Tara was able to hide from her family for years, so there's little doubt that she can disappear when she wants to, and that's what she'll do. Episode 21 does not need to change much at all, and in the season finale, Grave, we can still let Xander have his final hero moment. For either magical reasons or coincidence, he'll wake up from his coma, still in a fragile state, with the doctors telling him not to exert himself in any way. But once he learns about what Willow's doing, he'll crawl out of bed and go to Kingman's Bluff anyway and give the yellow crayon speech just as before. Once he succeeds and Willow reverts to her old self, we see him collapse and he dies. Maybe it's a hemorrhage or a heart attack from exhaustion, but in any case, he dies, a human with no superpowers, having made a real and complete sacrifice to save his best friend and the world. And once he dies, is that the last that we've seen of his face? Well, not if our Season 7 villain can take the form of any dead person it likes. Stay tuned. When the dust settles on Season 6, maybe Willow returns home to find a note on the bed from Tara. But in any case, Willow has to face the consequences not only of her misuse of magic, but that Tara is still alive in the world, but has dumped her for good and is not coming back. And we still can see Spike receive his soul. That sets us up for a much stronger, much healthier Season 7 premiere. Now we're ready to cover the beginning of a new Season 7, but let's just take a minute to run through our core characters and set up how we're going to treat them a little differently to solve some of the underlying Season 7 problems. Buffy. Buffy's Season 7 character arc is basically that she grows from a lone slayer to the leader of a whole army. Her final act of empowering the potentials is a step towards that goal, but our version is going to push that even further and remind the audience how throughout the series Buffy has always wanted a more normal life. We're also going to fill in some better explanation for why the saying goes, in every generation there is a chosen one, and that will help us stick the landing. Willow. Willow's character arc in Season 7 goes from penitent mourner back to a magic user, but it's not always a clean journey. We're just going to try and make sure that her development in Season 7 is a little more logical and orderly. Xander. As we've already explained, Xander will be dead, but he'll come back as the new primary face of the First. It always bothered me that the First appeared to Buffy as herself, because why would that be scary? Wouldn't it be much more disturbing, like Jenny Calendar appearing to Angel, if it appeared as their recently dead friend Xander, whom she had just failed to save? I also like this idea because there are many critics of Xander who point out that, let's just say, he's not always the most pro-feminist character in the universe. So wouldn't it be interesting to see the first bring out those qualities in a Ghost Xander, and also see Caleb and Xander on the same team? We're going to give that a shot. Giles. The way Giles is treated in Season 7 is just really bad. He's portrayed mostly as a bumbling, ineffective teacher of the potentials. He doesn't really get anything important to do all season, and he inexplicably takes sides against Buffy in one episode to support Wood, who he's just met that same day. We're just going to restore some respect and dignity to everyone's favorite cool dad. Anya. Even if we were not killing off Xander, you have to admit that Anya's reason for staying in Sunnydale was really Xander. And once she's left at the altar and given back her vengeance demon powers, there was just really no good reason for her to stick around Sunnydale. As much as we love her character, to keep things cleaner, we're going to say that she left town between seasons 6 and 7, though we'll bring her back for a brief encore. Andrew. Finally, as much as some people enjoy Andrew's comic relief, for the final season, if we're going to bring back a member of the trio, it's hard to argue that it shouldn't be Jonathan. Jonathan has been part of Buffy since the beginning. He's established himself as a capable magic user in one of the best Season 4 episodes, and he just means a lot more to the other characters and to the audience than Andrew does. So we're going to straight up replace Andrew with Jonathan. That's our character breakdown. Now let's finally begin a new Season 7. Season 7, Episode 1, Lessons. Overall, this is a great season premiere as it feels like a return to the Sunnydale High of old, and we're going to leave it mostly intact. The episode begins with mysterious robed figures killing a girl in Istanbul. In Sunnydale, Xander is gone now, so maybe we'll acknowledge how he's missed with a framed photo by the door that Buffy and Dawn touch on their way out. The other characters can handle the other plot functions that Xander had, including how he destroyed the evil talisman at the end. In this version, it can be played for laughs, as Principal Wood is annoyed to find a gaping hole in his bathroom floor and snaps the little bundle of twigs in frustration, thinking it's trash. We will write Spike out of this episode completely and save him for later. There never really was a good explanation for why he was hanging out in the school basement anyway. And Buffy and Dawn can fight the spirits without him around. And in the final scene, instead of the shape-shifting first talking to Spike, picture this instead. As Buffy leaves school for the day, the camera pulls back and we're shocked to see a very alive-looking Warren standing there, watching her go. As he talks, he morphs through all the other villains, but instead of finishing up as Buffy, it looks like Xander, with an eye patch over his left eye where he was shot. And then the audience thinks, wait, Xander is alive? But now he's an evil shapeshifter? What's happening? Our mind reels and we roll credits. Season 7, Episode 2, Help. Continuing the theme of Buffy and Dawn investigating high school problems, we're going to cut 2 episodes, Beneath You and Same Time, Same Place, and jump right to Help. This was originally Episode 4, about a student named Cassie who predicts her own death, which the Scoobies fail to prevent. In this version, we'll check in on Giles and Willow, but we'll keep them still in England for now. So Dawn will just have to be in charge of Willow internet research back home. We'll also cut all the scenes with Spike, but otherwise the main plot will stay pretty much the same. The episode will start with mysterious robed figures hunting down a girl in Frankfurt. Back in Sunnydale, picking up from where the last episode ended, we'll add in a couple of mysterious sightings of Xander in the halls of Sunnydale throughout the episode. Maybe Dawn thinks she sees him in a crowded hallway between classes, or Buffy thinks she sees him from a distance as she's leaving work. And we will end this episode with the destruction of the Watchers' Council. We'll see Quentin Travers convening a meeting, but instead of talking about finding Giles, maybe they're cryptically discussing the 2 murdered girls thus far, when, boom, the whole building explodes in a fireball. Roll credits. Season 7, Episode 3, Him. We're going to skip the episode Selfless here, though we will bring it back later in the season, and continue our new season with another high school-centric episode, Him. This is the episode where the quarterback, RJ, and his enchanted Letterman's jacket make all the girls fall in love with him. I loved this episode the first time I saw it, though I admit it's very silly, and we're going to leave it mostly intact. In the main RJ plot, we just need to make up for the lack of some Scooby characters by getting Kit and Carlos more involved. Hey, remember them? Dawn's new best friends from the first episode, whom we never saw again? Yeah, we're going to try to give them a little more to do this season, starting here. In the interest of helping their friend Dawn, there's no reason that they can't track down RJ's brother and destroy the jacket, so that's what they'll do. The other more important change that we'll make to this episode is that we'll replace the prologue scene with new material. Robson, who was Giles' Watcher friend, is in his London apartment and discovers his potential is dead and fights off some mysterious robed figures himself. After barricading himself in a room, he makes a call to Giles with a cryptic message like, "Rupert, it started, they're here!" and we'll see Giles get that call, and he instructs Willow to stay put while he rushes to investigate. And in the final scene of the episode, we can cut back to London one more time to see Giles burst into Robson's apartment, and we'll see the original cliffhanger of a robed figure with his axe starting to take a swing as we cut to black. Season 7, Episode 4, Conversations with Dead People. This is now the first episode where our Season 7 is going to start making some significant detours. Originally, this episode was one that cut back and forth between 5 stories. We're going to keep all of Dawn's story the same, make one little change to the end of Buffy's, but mostly we'll rewrite Jonathan and Andrew's story, and we'll rewrite Willow's in a way that reintroduces us to a new Spike. First, Willow will be reading alone in Giles's house when Xander, not Cassie, with his new eye patch, appears to her. At first, she thinks he might be alive, but in a good-natured Xander kind of way, he reveals that he's just an incorporeal ghost. After some jokes about his eye and other banter, he gets serious for a moment, and he tells Willow that she's got to stop using magic or she'll kill everyone. There's no mention here of her committing suicide, no revealing that he's not actually Xander, but immediately after he disappears, Giles will rush into the room and tell Willow they're in trouble and that they've got to go check on another watcher. I say Giles in quotes because in fact this is the real Giles, but we will carefully mimic the original season to subtly not have Giles touch things in order to sow suspicion that he may be the first. Maybe he'll ask Willow to pack his laptop for him, and he can hop into his convertible BMW and insist that Willow drives. Things like that. Later in Act 3, Giles and Willow arrive at the next Watcher's house, but they're surrounded by mysterious robed figures and even some vampires before they can enter. Later in Act 4, we see them still surrounded and weaponless, and Willow is still too afraid to use any magic, but suddenly, leaping down from a roof or out of the shadows, there's a heroic figure. Maybe he's got a hood obscuring his face and a big swishy overcoat, and he's staking vampires left and right, and at some point maybe he extends both arms and spring-loaded stakes pop out. The robed figures flee, his hood comes off, and it's Spike? Except he's different. Maybe his hair is no longer bleached. Maybe he's still dressed for fighting, but not so punk rock and more urban outfitters. Giles and Willow are shocked, but we'll all have to wait till next episode for more explanation. Then in between those scenes, we also see Jonathan, without Andrew this time, driving into Sunnydale. And instead of the first as Warren, it will actually be appearing to him as Katrina. You'll recall that Katrina was Warren's girlfriend in Season 6, whom he killed and whose death Jonathan would surely feel guilty about. Katrina has convinced Jonathan that because of her murder in Sunnydale, her spirit is trapped in a kind of purgatory, and will come to learn that she convinced him that by putting his guilty blood onto the seal over Sunnydale's hellmouth, that would release her soul and absolve him of guilt. Jonathan's story can follow many of the original beats of the episode. He can still give his nostalgic speech about remembering high school, and in the final scene, he will use that knife to cut his own hand and make the seal start to glow. Also, we'll introduce here in Jonathan and Katrina's dialogue that the date is somehow important, that the seal can only be opened at certain times. This will be important later. Dawn's story, as I mentioned, will not really change, but I just want to emphasize here that a glowing Joyce will still appear and say her line about Buffy not being there for Dawn and not choosing her. But in our version, we'll make sure this actually pays off later. And finally, at the end of Buffy's story, instead of the vampire Holden mentioning Spike, he instead says that he's been talking recently to Buffy's old friend, Xander. Buffy dusts Holden and is left wondering what this all means. Roll credits. So, there you have the beginning of a new Season 7. We've got lots of swirling questions about the Bringers, the First, and Spike, so join us in the next video, and we'll see what's coming next.